This podcast was brought to you by zombies, because everything has zombies nowadays. Hello and welcome to Monkey Broadcast, a monthly review and discussion show with me, the Jonin Monkey.
And me, Sven the Crusader. Howdy, folks. Welcome to the month of October. You know, spooky, scary skeletons.
Yes, although if it's anything like our previous shows, that sponsorship might be the only thing related to horror in this entire episode.
Yeah, I can pretty well guarantee that.
I mean, I suppose I could review a horror movie, but that would depend on me actually being someone who watches horror movies and isn't such a wuss that he only plays horror games in bright sunshine where he knows everything is alright.
I guess I could do something, but the only horror that I partake in are scary story channels on YouTube.
Yeah, well, I mean, admittedly, I've been curious by Until Dawn, but unfortunately, that's for PlayStation 4, and I'm not willing to buy a brand new console for one game, so,
Yeah, for me, it's a matter of the fact that I don't play horror games and the fact that I don't have loads of money.
That's fair enough, although to be honest, from what I've seen, the PlayStation 4 has kind of shot itself in the foot because pretty much every single game I might have bought a PlayStation 4... God, that's a confusing in its head. Might have bought a PlayStation 4
a PlayStation 44. Wow, I didn't know we were that far ahead.
Oh, goddamn. The point is, anything that might have made me buy a PlayStation 4 is already available on PlayStation 3. I mean, I suppose I could buy a less plasticky looking version of Dragon Age Inquisition, but I'm one of these weirdos who buys games for the story, not the graphics.
I think, no, I'm not going to make any comment about real fans.
Yeah, it's probably best, and wow, I've just realised this is possibly one of the longest opening intros we've ever had, so time to get back to the actual meat of the show with our first section, which is...
Q&A!
This is the section where we answer questions from the audience. If you'd like us to answer your questions, either leave them in the comments or send them to me via Twitter with the hashtag MBQuestion.
Okay, our first question comes from the Infernity Zero. Hi, IZ.
What would you say is the best way to avoid villain decay, especially if the character is meant to be a recurring threat, or, in Sven's case, going the Eisen route?
Well, that's an interesting question. Do you want the first shot, Sven?
No reality warping powers. Please God, no reality warping powers. I might have been interested in Griffith until he became the God Emperor of that entire universe.
Yeah, that is true. When the villain gets to be God level, it's kind of annoying because they're basically walking through everything that comes their way, and B, it's never going to be satisfying when the heroes ultimately defeat them. Since Infinity Zero brought up Eisen, I have incredible reality warping powers that allow me to get ridiculously stronger each and every time. So the only way Ichigo can defeat me is to just sit down and tap into some final Getsuga Tensho, which is just happened to be in him all this time as a failsafe.
Yeah, and first of all, training arc in the middle of the final battle. Only in a shonen manga. Second of all, it's a sad state of affairs whenever a villain gets to be so broken that the already broken protagonist is forced to get a new power-up and one-shot him.
Yeah, that's just... yeah.
It's just... There's a reason I list Bleach as a guilty pleasure. And the catalyst of that was that final arc. So basically, keep your villains grounded, please. And if you're going to write them as unrepentant assholes, don't go the Mayuri Kuretsuchi route either.
Yeah, I don't know why he's still a protagonist at this point.
I mean, I gave it some serious thought, and he's basically the Joker, so why are we supposed to be sympathizing with him?
Oh, God, yes. Anyway, moving swiftly on for that before Sven breaks, I would add one other element, which is consistency. Again, just to go back to the Eisen example, one of the most frustrating bits about him is that he's introduced as this guy who's always one step ahead of everyone, who has always been masterminding great plans, and then basically it gets to the point where he's so strong, he actively says, I'm not even bothering with this, I can just walk through you guys, I don't need to strategize anything. I kind of like it when the villains are much more consistent. Like, you have a basis for their characterization and they stick to it, even if they do go the downfall. Like, there is one great example, because I've been playing Tales of Xillia recently, and my word, Gaius is such an amazing villain. In fact, he's such an amazing villain, it almost feels wrong to call him that. He's more like an antagonist, and the reason why is, okay, the basic principle is, Gaius is the king of a country, but he takes the sword or the knee approach, as in, his main philosophy is, it is the duty of the strong to guide the weak. So, he kind of believes that because of his strength, he has the right to basically do whatever he wants and gather as much strength as he needs in order to guide people down the right path, as he puts it. But by that same token, when the heroes get stronger, he actually starts to cooperate with them in some ways and actually gain a respect for them, and he actually starts listening to some of their ideas. And so I'm trying to think of the best way to say this, A, without using spoilers, and B, without introducing the complicated world logic that is always in every single RPG, but basically, Gaius forms a connection with our heroes, and even when they disagree on how to deal with the world's problems, he will still hear their side of the argument, and in some cases, try out their ideas, even if it's only to prove that they don't work, because he ultimately wants to avoid conflict with them. This creates a relationship of respect, where the two sides are always challenging each other, and as a result, forcing each other to step up their game. I find it really interesting, the fact that he was a character that was so consistent throughout, but ultimately he comes to blows with the heroes because they are hopeful for possibilities to the future, and he just wants to solve everything with just brute force absolutes all the time. So, yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for in villains these days. Villains who have a character and just stay with it, even if they eventually start spiraling into greater evil or madness in the case of villains like Azula. I want it to be based on a character flaw that's already been established beforehand, not just say, oh, this one thing happened to make them miserable, now they're homicidal and stupid.
Fair enough. I'll keep that advice in mind in the future.
I'm sorry, that was kind of a long spiel.
Hey, no worse than me going off on a tangent about nothing but Bleach villains.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up our answer. Consistency to character and a little bit grounded in terms of power, basically.
Honestly, I think grounded is a good descriptor all around. Grounded in terms of power in the story universe. Like, if you have super powerful characters, fine, have a super powerful villain. Just don't make them the god emperor of everything. And grounded in terms of characterization.
Yeah, that's definitely the best way to put it. And the next question from the Infinity Zero is,
what do you think it would be like if Nintendo made an origin story for the Mario Brothers?
Haven't they already?
That's... okay, it's kind of funny you say that, because I think the problem with Nintendo making an origin story for the Mario Brothers is that they always change their minds. They originally went with, oh, they're plumbers from Brooklyn who fell into a pipe, and now it's just kind of, well, they were born sometime in the Mushroom Kingdom. So...
To be fair, I haven't actually played the Yoshi's Island series, or as I like to call it, Star Children, the original Octodad.
Yeah, that was a bit of a stretch, but basically it's kind of weird. There is so much inconsistency with the Mario Bros. Origin story anyway. There are some spirited Mario fans, let's put it that way, who try to reconcile this origin story that, oh no, they were raised in the Mushroom Kingdom, then somehow ended up in Brooklyn and lived there for a bit before coming back, and just
Please don't dip into that shitty Bob Hoskins movie canon.
Yeah, we don't need to look at that. But yeah, if you're going to have a long-running series like this, you need someone who does care even just the tiniest bit about continuity for it to work. Like, there's one great interview, I believe it was called something like Legend of Zelda Behind a Legend or something like that. It was made before the launch of the Wind Waker, and it's actually pretty interesting because there's one part where there's two people involved in the interview, Aonuma, the current head of the Legend of Zelda series, and Shigeru Miyamoto. And the vague question of the timeline is brought up. How is Wind Waker a sequel to Ocarina of Time when it was completely reversed? And is this the same Link or a new Link? Aonuma goes into detail about his idea for the multiverse theory. The idea that technically a second timeline was created at the end of Ocarina of Time, but that timeline still continued. So this is the timeline where the events of Adult Link did actually happen. Miyamoto just goes, I believe that every single Legend of Zelda game has a new Link who is destined to take down evil. Aonuma is someone who very clearly cares about the concepts of the continuity. Miyamoto is more than happy to just go for the easy answer or whatever's convenient at the time. Like, you can tell this with Mario, the fact that Bowser is supposed to have had, at the very least, one child, Bowser Jr., but they've made no mention of who the mother is because, as far as Miyamoto's concerned, that's not important. The mother's not going to be involved in any kind of gameplay terms, therefore there's no sense bringing it up. In fact, you can actually tell this in two things. One, first off, in an interview, it was asked, are the Koopalings Bowser's children or not? And his response is, they are currently Bowser's minions, which means he did think about them being children at one point, but has changed his mind and doesn't really care that much. And recently, to coincide with the release of Super Mario Maker, there was a video where Miyamoto was called in to answer some Mario myths, and someone asks, who is the mother of Bowser Jr.? Miyamoto thinks for a moment, then points at himself.
What? Miyamoto, what?
Yeah.
You lazy bastard.
Yeah, that's the thing. If they ever did make like a prequel story of the Mario Bros, A, it would be very basic, and B, it would not stick at all, because it's quite clear that, yeah, Mario is not a series you should look to for any deep lore, because it's quite clear that, as far as Miyamoto's concerned, it's just a simple fairy tale that they really don't have any interest in the continuity. So if they did make an origin story, it really wouldn't matter in the long run, I don't think.
Although, just to sign this particular question off, I'm just going to plant a mental image in all of your heads. Mario Origin Story by Hideo Kojima.
Wow, that would be like a complete reversal of everything.
Now, just for your benefit, imagine Bowser in the role of Senator Armstrong. Moving on.
And I will make the Cooper Kingdom great again!
Donald Trump.
Oh, dude, this is getting more and more insane. So, yeah, very swiftly moving on to the next question.
Our next question comes from Roy Havenstone, who asks,
What are the best examples of environmental storytelling, i.e. when a game's environment is configured in a way to show the history of what went on there, that you can think of?
I think the closest I've played something like that would be Portal. There are probably some games like Gone Home or Amnesia that do it better. The problem is I've yet to move into that scene yet. Like, I've started to with the Stanley Parable, but Stanley Parable doesn't really tell things through environments as much. So the main example would be Portal, just because of, well, yeah, admittedly a good chunk of the story comes through GLaDOS, but there are interesting elements added, like frost glass windows that kind of imply that you'll be watched, the introduction, which kind of sets up everything you need to know about the character's situation, and also that whole revelation of the cake is a lie in episode 6, where you pull past a crate and then walk inside basically what the creators refer to as a rat den, with that crawl all over the wall, implying that something darker is going on. And by the way, when I finally got to Portal, it's about that point I started really disliking the cake is a lie meme. Not because I was spoiled, it still had the same impact, but mainly because it isn't actually a pretty effective and chilling moment in the game, and people just keep throwing it around like it's some cheap comedy catchphrase rather than treating that mode of respect. I don't know, I'm just kind of annoyed by that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But to return to the question, I guess this is pertaining to the lore of the world and setting, I guess. And in that case, the biggest example that comes to my mind is Final Fantasy X. Now, I will readily poke fun at Final Fantasy X. That game was silly. But if there's one thing I will give it, the atmosphere was awesome, and the world design really gave you a sense that this was a world that had been blown out countless times by slobbering cosmic monstrosity. So,
yeah, I can kind of understand that. On that kind of same token, admittedly it might be a bit of a stretch, but one positive example I can give is the retro Donkey Kong games. Just to clarify, I mean games by Retro Studios rather than retro... You know what I mean. But basically stuff like Return to Tropical Freeze, they do add like little nice bits of environmental storytelling in there. But Tropical Freeze, especially in the way the levels are designed, is really good at foreshadowing elements that are going to appear in later stages in the background. And I also have to give major props to the final world of Tropical Freeze. When you return to DK Isles after the villain has taken over, and just the way it's been so drastically changed in contrast to what it looks like normally, and that epic song by David Wise, DKR Homecoming, I believe it's called. Yeah, that was just a great moment, so not gonna lie.
Yeah, and on that token, going back to worlds ravaged by apocalypses, all of Fallout. Because, you know, you're wandering through the American wasteland, and the only explanation you get for lore is picking up scattered journal holodisks. So, yeah, it's just great atmosphere, and, you know, walking through bombed-out skyscrapers and overhead interstates really gives you a sense of the fact that 200 years ago, humanity completely destroyed itself.
Yeah, not to mention just the ways they've basically had to make settlements out of whatever you can find, like the town Novak in New Vegas, which is basically a motel and garage with only called Novak because of a no vacancy sign where part of it's fallen off.
Yeah, what's actually funny is that I think Novak is an actual town in Eastern California, so they worked that in well.
Yeah, so, like you say, it really gives that sense of the familiar amongst a large pile of rubble to show that, yeah, people lived in this place, and now it's a wreck.
Yeah, and you mentioned New Vegas, and I have to give special notice to New Vegas, because you get the sense that it's a horrible, rough wasteland out there, but in New Vegas you also get the sense that people are starting to move on. Because you have functioning communities, people have electricity, there is a dam providing power to the state of Nevada, and then there's just New Vegas in general, which is a shining bright beacon of skyscraper lights in the distance, and you actually get the feeling that 200 years later, people are actually starting to move on from nuclear Armageddon.
Yeah, that is a really good example, actually. One last one I can think of at the top of my head. It's something I'm going to be reviewing later on in VTT, but Fragile Dreams had a really good example of this. It's in a very same vein as Fallout, in the fact that these are very familiar places that were once populated, but you can tell that they've been abandoned for so long. But it's done like with this very quiet, still image. Like, it's played, I guess, it's more of a result of what happened if people just slowly died out rather than violently committing themselves to war. At least that's how it's presented at first, but then they reveal the actual backstory. And I'll get to that in the main review. Point is, that is another good example of it, and yeah, I can't think of any more examples off the top of my head. Any others from your side, Sven? Or?
No, unless I want to learn more about Fallout, so let's move on.
Yeah, it's probably for the best. Our next question comes from Luffy McDuck, and he asks,
has Frieza regained his dignity in the Dragon Ball Z movie Revival of F?
Take it away, Jonin.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I know you don't know much about Dragon Ball, but basically, in another question, I talked about how Frieza was at one point meant to be the final villain of the Dragon Ball Z universe, and it took so much time to break him, but then the series was continued after that arc, and since then he's kind of gotten more and more pathetic because, as you know, Dragon Ball Z, there's a massive power creep, so the human characters who were once powerful rivals are now basically forced to sit on a bench and spout dialogue that is 90% of the time useless. Dear Lord, what is that? I don't know, I can't see them, they're so fast.
Basically, they're forced to sit on the sidelines and cry.
Pretty much. And by contrast, the villains get more and more pathetic, and they kind of made a joke about this in, I think it was Fusion Reborn, where Frieza pops up saying, "At last, I have been resurrected from hell," and then Gohan takes him out in a single punch.
Well, that's a useful way of demonstrating that, Toriyama.
Yeah, so admittedly that was one of the non-canon movies, but anyway, point is, in a sense, yes, he has regained his dignity, because now, as of Revival of F, which I haven't seen as of yet, because whilst they did movie screenings in America, they didn't do so in the UK, to my knowledge, so yeah, I'm going to have to wait till the DVD comes out. And before anyone asks, yes, I will be reviewing that on this podcast once I've actually seen it. But yeah, back on point. The fact that he's gained this new golden form and he's now the strongest villain in the Dragon Ball Z universe means he regained his dignity. However, I would still say it's on shaky ground, and the reason why is because, well, it's more of an indicative problem with Dragon Ball Z, and I'm going to say something which is a conclusion I've come to, and it's also something that admittedly might lose me some friends in the Dragon Ball Z circle, but it's something I have to say. The Super Saiyan killed Dragon Ball.
Okay, I'm interested in this.
Yeah, admittedly this isn't my own personal opinion, but here's the thing. Like I said, Frieza was meant to be, at one point, the final villain. Like, the whole saga on Namek, that was meant to be the final chapter, but then the series was so popular that Akira Toriyama was forced to continue, and then had to keep coming up with new villains that could surpass Frieza. But the thing is, Frieza could only be defeated by Goku achieving the ultimate form of enlightenment for the Super Saiyans, the pinnacle that only one Saiyan before him had ever achieved, something that was considered a legend, to the point where one of the best parts of the Frieza arc was the fact that Vegeta didn't really know what a Super Saiyan looked like. Him being the prideful git that he is, when he sees that Goku is faster and stronger than him, he just kind of makes the assumption that, oh, he must be the Super Saiyan. And so he grows to around roughly the same strength and takes on Frieza going, oh yeah, I'm a Super Saiyan, I can defeat you now, Frieza, but Frieza's just mercilessly taunting him going, no, Vegeta, you're not, it's a legend. Then it breaks him down to the point where Vegeta actually cries in the realization that he cannot beat Frieza. So, what I'm trying to get is the Super Saiyan is this ultimate stage that Goku achieved basically because he is the hero, and that is the baseline for every villain after that. Because the next villain had to be stronger than Frieza, otherwise there's no point in having them, anyone who needed to have a hope against that villain had to be Super Saiyan, or find something equivalent, like they briefly did it with a Super Namekian having Piccolo and Kami fused together again, but after that, unless you were a Saiyan, you had no chance against anything.
Ah, okay, I see the problem.
Yeah, so the villains kept getting more and more powerful, and by contrast, they had to find more and more Super Saiyan forms, because once you reveal that the only way to defeat someone is to achieve a new form, that's the direction they were forced to go. And admittedly, during the Cell Saga, they were actually a bit more creative about this, because Goku started actually training and experimenting more with the Super Saiyan form, as they were thinking, okay, what's the best way to go about this? Can we actually make this stronger? Can we maintain it for longer, etc, etc, etc? So that was a bit more creative, but then it started getting more and more ridiculous. Like Super Saiyan 3, there is no explanation for how the hell anyone got there. Goku claims he's just, oh, it's something I happened to learn whilst I was in Outworld. And Gotenks, he goes, oh, it's not a big deal, I'll tell you about it later. Every single Dragon Ball Z battle, it wasn't about wits, it wasn't about analysing the character's moves, it wasn't even about movesets really, it's just who has the best super form And can Goku create a spirit bomb? Those are the only two ways you can defeat a villain in the Dragon Ball Z universe. And the reason why I say that, to bring it back to the context of this question, the only way Frieza can regain his dignity is to gain a new super form. And the only way Goku can have a chance against this new super form is to create yet another version of the Super Saiyan. The form with the name, I kid you not, this is the official name, the Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan.
Oh, there were 1,001 things that made Goku vs. Superman 2, that death battle, really stupid. And would I be in the wrong for saying that this was one of them?
No, I think you're right, because that's the dignity. On the one hand, yeah, Frieza's back up to be one of the more stronger villains, but on the other hand, he gets defeated in roughly the same way. I mean, maybe there's some clever plot twist in the movie where it turns out to be entirely or Frieza's still stronger, but the point remains that he's basically now trapped in this cycle. It doesn't matter what super form Frieza will get, Goku will instantly unlock some new form and defeat him. He's locked into a pattern at this point. He's locked into the same pattern that all the other Dragon Ball Z villains had done. In fact, that was why I found Battle of the Gods so interesting at the end, because the Goku Super Saiyan God form turned out to be pretty darn useless, and ultimately Beerus still won in the end. Yeah, pretty much. That's why I've kind of fallen out of love, not with Dragon Ball Z itself, because I still have some nostalgia for it, but out of love of that style of shonen anime. Like, I'm kind of started to enjoy more series like Buso Ranking, My Hero Academia. Basically, when characters have a very specific skill set and abilities, and it's basically the hero trying to use those in a creative way against a villain who has his own unique abilities and movesets. Basically, I like it when the characters are unique and separate, and you actually have to be more creative about the way they defeat them, rather than, I have attained the next level of power!
Going back to our previous question...
Yeah, that was another problem with Bison, but yeah, that's my long-winded answer. Kind of, sort of, but still a little shaky.
Fair enough. Our next question comes from Toon Junkie. Of course. What's more awesome, ninja dinosaurs or robot wizards? Robot wizards, any day of the week.
Oh, I'm afraid we're going to have a disagreement there, good sir.
Really? Because, just the idea of RoboCop with magic, I can't beat that.
Yes, but come on, it's ninja dinosaurs. It's like two awesome things combining into one other awesome thing. It's an awesome contrast. You have the ninjas who are sneaky and stealthy, and then you have dinosaurs, which are big and powerful,
So basically, if you combine ninjas and dinosaurs, you get the Naruto ninjas.
It depends which Naruto ninjas, to be fair.
Headcanon, my guy is secretly a dinosaur.
Oh, jeez. Before we go any further, I also want to say, to Junkie, I can read your mind because I know that this is secretly a Kamen Rider versus Super Sentai question, because yeah, Super Sentai are currently involving ninja dinosaurs and Kamen Rider has robot wizards.
Wow. It's a little worrying whenever one of us is finally able to interpret Toon Junkie.
But yeah, this might be a stage where I'm going to respectfully disagree and say, yeah, I'm sticking with dinosaur ninjas. I mean, I don't know, robot wizard, it just kind of sounds a bit meh.
Good sir, I can see we're going to have to deal with this outside.
It's time for a death battle!
Well, that was pointless.
Man, we would make the worst episode of DB ever.
Not quite. I mean, there's still Goku versus Superman 2, but anyway.
Good one. Good one.
On that note, we now move on to our final question, which is bizarrely even stranger than Toon Junkies. It comes from Vice of Legends, and his question is,
if you and Sven were trapped on a zombie island and all you had was 2 cans of oranges, 5 pieces of string, 1.5 inch thick rope, and a trampoline, what would you make to fight zombies? Note that you can't make bows as both your archery skills are horrible.
Wow. Put us in one hell of a Fallout situation there, Vice. I know what I would do with cans. Fill them with rocks and use them as bolas.
That could be one method, of course. Once it's tied around one patch of zombies, you then have to go back and retrieve them pretty damn quickly.
That's what curb stomping is for. I never thought I would say that.
Yeah, I guess it would depend on how many zombies. See, you're thinking offensively, I'm thinking defensively, which... My plan is, we find a bit of the island with soft earth, dig a hole, then use the trampolines as a kind of shield, tie it to the top of the hole using the string and the rope, and then we just survive off the cans of oranges until the zombies eventually either get bored or decompose to the point where they can't hurt us anymore.
Wow. And if all else fails, we have bolas.
That is true, yes. In fact, actually, we can combine the plans. If the zombies are still there, once we've exhausted the food supply of 2 cans of oranges, then yes, we could just use the rope, use the Ebolas, and make one last stand.
Okay, I'm for this. There's kind of technically a fighting chance.
Hey, although of course it does all depend on the island having some diggable earth. I mean, if it's all solid bedrock, we're buggered.
Yeah, pretty much. In that case, there would be nothing for it. Bolas and Dead Snow-style last stand with Norwegian folk rock playing in the background.
What the heck would you use a trampoline and rope for? Some kind of massive mega...
Oh my god. Wow, that is one hell of a mental image, just swinging a huge trampoline around on the road.
I don't know if we'd be strong enough to do that, though. That was the only thing. Maybe if we just dropped it from a cliff and used it like a weird pendulum.
But I can think of a use for the trampoline, string it to 2 trees, and use it as a rainwater carrier.
Huh. Actually, yeah, that could work.
I'm thinking about this way too seriously.
So much to be fair, but hey, at least we know if there is a zombie apocalypse, we can get something together.
Well, at least I can go into the review with that assurance that my use of watching York Sproff and Zombie Go Boom on YouTube have not been for nothing.
Hooray! So, with all that said, we can now move away from the Q&A into the next section, which is...
Reviews!
This is obviously the section where we review something we've read, watched, or played this month. And Sven, you said you weren't sure if you had anything for this section?
Yeah, I don't. The only thing that can technically work here, I think, is way too short to qualify as anything but a quickfire review.
Okay, fair enough. So, I'm gonna go with a movie, and like I said, I could have gone with a horror movie. I could have gone with The Winter Soldier, which I've been meaning to watch again because I haven't seen it since the last time I watched it in cinema. And there was also a movie I watched which could have been in a subject review, but then I realised it was actually only half an hour long, and so it wasn't really worth talking about for anything other than a quickfire. So I've decided to fall back on the failsafe plan I've been having for the last few months, which is Thunderbirds 6.
Oh god.
Now, those of you who missed the podcast from 2 months ago, or just joined us and you have absolutely no idea what Thunderbirds are, let me give you a quick primer. Basically, it's a British puppet show from the 1960s based around a group called International Rescue that saves people using amazing flying machines called Thunderbirds. It was a popular series, and then they had 2 movies. The first I covered 2 months ago and was a massive flop, basically because it was trying way too hard to be up to movie scale, and so we had Martian rock snakes and Cliff Richard Jr. It was a weird movie. This one, however, is definitely the better of the 2, mainly because it's actually got a concrete plot and sticks with it.
Well, that's a start.
Well, I say concrete plot, it's more 2 plots, and admittedly it comes off like a slightly longer version of the TV show, but hey, like I said, I prefer something that has a consistent plot and doesn't go to crazy stuff just for the sake of it. We begin with the heads of an aircraft company saying that they're very excited because a person known as Mr. X, who is actually the character Brains, the designer of the Thunderbirds, has come forth to give us a brand new idea for a vehicle that we could build. What is your amazing plan, Mr. X? Do you have a vehicle that can break the sound barrier, fly the speed of sound, and Brains just kind of pops out and, well, I think in this day and age, we should build an airship. And the board just goes silent and then just bursts into laughter, which it's kind of a stock scene and it's a little bit overdone here, since all he does is just say airship and then suddenly they find it so hilarious they burst into hysterics. But because this is puppets, it's a scene that comes off as rather creepy and actually could fit in a Halloween show, and it's kind of difficult to describe why in audio form, but fortunately I have a guinea pig in the form of Sven. So, Sven, please watch this video.
Well, there but for the grace of God go I, Guinea Sven.
An airship? An airship?
Is it safe to come out now?
It's a bit creepy.
I am a changed person.
Yeah, I don't know quite what it is, whether it's just the fact that their jaws don't move or just the fact that it looks so wooden, but yeah.
I'll be over here. I need to make a few appointments.
So yeah, after that scene, which has traumatized children and adults alike, we then come back to Tracy Island, the headquarters of Thunderbirds, and Jeff Tracy, for the audience at home, decides to spontaneously that he's going to list off that, okay, we have these 5 Thunderbird crafts. Thunderbird 1, the scout vehicle. Thunderbird 2, the transport that brings specialized equipment. Thunderbird 3, the space rocket. Thunderbird 4, the submarine. And Thunderbird 5, the communication satellite. And now I'm telling you, brains, we need a Thunderbird 6. And we have the big title drop of Thunderbird 6, and then we come back to Brains and goes, can I have a specification, please? What do you want me to make? Specification? You didn't need one when you suggested an airship idea. Well, yeah, and they laughed at it. Yes, they laughed. And then they built it. And we suddenly cut to the opening credits, which shows panning shots of the said airship which the air company built. Which, in a way, it's kind of cute in that, yeah, they laughed at Brains, but they realised his genius eventually. But that also means that there is a scene we did see in the movie where they go, an airship. An airship? Actually, that's a really, really good idea. Quick, get it back, get it back! Yeah, that kind of sets up the A plot and the B plot of the movie. The B plot concerning the development of Thunderbird 6, which, by the way, is a complete and total lie. There is no Thunderbird 6. It ends up just being a byplay they arbitrarily call Thunderbird 6 because they have to have something. But yeah, generally, most of the B plot consists of Brains trying to design Thunderbird's vehicles and being turned down every time. There's actually 2 things I like about this sequence. One, it's very clear that Jeff Tracy would end up on clients in hell if this was done today. Second, Brains, like I said, as a character, he's the one who designed the Thunderbirds, and he's basically the stereotypical scientific genius in the sense that he has big, goofy 60s style glasses, and he speaks with this stammer all the time, Mr. Tracy. So you kind of see him stuck in that scientist role, which is usually him just giving a big exposition dump and being really, really awkward in social situations. What's actually funny here is that there's times where he has made this stylish model to show off the use to Jeff, and Jeff goes, I'm sorry, it's just not what I'm looking for. Shame about all the work, but I'm gonna have to ask you to go back to the drawing board. And then it cuts to Brains in a separate room going, oh, don't worry, Mr. Tracy. It was only 28 days working day and night. Don't worry about it at all, smash!
I'm over here still cracking up about your scientist impression.
That is actually how Brains talks, which is the unfortunate bit.
Oh my god.
Which is why I'm kind of glad that you have scenes like this where you actually do get to see Brains being angry, and surprisingly he doesn't stutter when he's absolutely enraged. Funny that. So, aside from that, the B plot goes absolutely nowhere. What happens is, in the A plot, occasionally Thunderbirds would step into espionage storylines, mainly revolving around Lady Penelope, who is an assistant of theirs, because basically, for those who haven't seen the show, International Rescue has this special network of agents, and it's kind of weird when you think about it, because the main purpose of their existence is to stop people trying to find out the secrets of International Rescue, but given that International Rescue only ever show up in very specific locations, it's kind of bizarre that they do that. So it tends to be either Lady Penelope taking out the Hood whenever he shows up, or Lady Penelope gets caught up in some completely unrelated adventure that eventually ends up in a situation where International Rescue have to, well, rescue her, hence the name. So this is another one of those espionage plots where, because it was Brains that built the thing, the Skyrocket decides we're going to have a few representatives of International Rescue fly aboard this craft in their maiden voyage. And we're going to have a crew that are all sworn to secrecy, and everything will be fine, hunky-dory, and we can set off this brand new line of airships. But because Brains is too busy designing models, having a tantrum, and complaining about it on his live journal, the representatives said are Alan, Lady Penelope, and Tintin, a character I've never mentioned before, and that's basically because she's the most useless character in the entire show. Oh, and Lady Penelope is Butler Parker, I can't forget about him. But anyway, all four of them are taking part in the maiden voyage. Unfortunately, whilst the crew all sworn to secrecy, any thugs who happen to catch wind of this plan and, I don't know, shoot all of the crew before they meet the International Rescue and then take their place, they're not sworn to secrecy.
No kidding!
But actually their plan is a bit more subtler compared to past ideas, because they've realised, okay, thanks to the wonders of technology, this ship is 100% automated, therefore we don't have to worry about actually flying the thing. We know these people have some kind of connection to International Rescue, and if they get a message from them, they're probably going to act. So what we're going to do, we're just going to carry on as normal and just act like we're members of the crew, but we're going to bug the entire place and record everything they say, and then try and use all of these audio clips to send a message directly to International Rescue so that we can lure them into our trap. And it sounds silly, but it's actually kind of interesting, because the way they go about it is actually pretty subtle. It's just usually slight nods to the conversation. Like, there's one point where they have to get a very specific aerial fixture position. The way he goes about it, he has like a map open on the table and he goes, "Ah yes, we're about to enter the Grand Canyon. I remember I was lost, but then I remembered the Grand Canyon's aerial fix point was 4730. Ah, correction, Captain, it's aerial fixture 4.2. Ah, yes, never thought I'd forget that one." And then that's recorded. So, yeah, it's kind of an interesting little espionage game. So you've got these guys being smooth and just trying to get Lady Penelope to say this stuff, but not actually being threatening. And you've got the International Rescue guys who have had experience in this sort of thing before, so they know, okay, something's up, but we have no idea what they're doing. The only reason it comes off as slightly goofy is because I don't know if there's an official name for this trope on something like TV tropes, but it's one of those weird things where it's a series set in the future, but it's kind of limited by the technology they have now. So I say they're editing the audio, and you would probably think that they're doing it on this fancy computer, but unfortunately, it's the 60s, so whilst there is a big computer behind them that has all these spinning dials, he's still editing it on a tape deck.
Oh my god!
Yeah, so there's still like the reels of tape he is rewinding, playing, recording, cutting. It's just so it's still very limited in that mindset, which is kind of a bit.
Yeah, it's like the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars with its nice beige paneling.
Yeah, or it's stuff like Star Trek as well. Like, So yeah, that's the only problem, is that it's kind of dated. That said, that main plot line is still enjoyable and genuinely good, but it is still filled with goofy elements like that. Like, oh god, sorry, I just remembered. Again, just to kind of show how time has moved on, it's not just the fact that they're using the tape deck, but the fact that people are a bit more surprised at the concept of editing. The Eureka mode is when Alan and Lady Penelope are just kind of on a balcony, and then Alan goes, "I've got it! They're recording your voice and editing it, right? Right? And editing is a form of rearrangement, right? Right? So they must be rearranging your recordings to say something." It's like, oh, I'm even sure. Oh, now with the number of kids who are making podcasts and YouTube videos, I'm pretty sure everyone knows what the concept of editing is nowadays.
God, they're discussing it like the concept of 3D printing.
You can kind of tell that it's a product of its time, although the one thing that is a bit goofy is the fact that because it's a Thunderbirds film, well, two things happen. First off, the message plan doesn't quite work, partially because, well, if I'm going to be brutally honest, if you did actually go ahead with this plan, the one problem is it would not sound like a natural sentence. I mean, you've probably noticed sometimes when I'm editing it, you'll get the odd jumps when I try to cover up a stutter, but it doesn't quite work. Imagine doing that with sentences taken from completely different conversations and stacked against each other.
Yeah.
So, by the show's logic, it's because Lady Penelope wants them in advance, and this is a complete side note, and it's technically a spoiler, but, well, I'm going to send you another clip from the film, and this time, Lady Penelope gets the message to them just in time when the Thunderbirds have already landed in the location the villains want them to, and the villain's plan is to train guns on the Thunderbirds and say, as soon as the pilots step out, we'll kill them, and International Rescue has a more creative way of dealing with them. For reference, this goes on for over a minute. Just constant explosions.
Am I looking at the Bush Doctrine?
Yeah, I like that last one where the last one, the building's already a burning wreck and they just like, one more.
One more for old times.
And then they just fly off, leaving the burning wreckage and God knows how many dead. They may be known as International Rescue, but you do not f*** with them.
Clearly not.
That's one of the more bizarre sequences of the movie, that they just, that without any kind of warning or provocation, they just fire missile after missile.
All I can think of is red versus blue, firing main cannon.
Oh dear, yeah. But getting back to the other goofy element I mentioned before, after that's dealt with, this being Thunderbirds, the skyship ends up crashing into something, and it then becomes a rescue situation. But despite the fact that they've been discovered, the fact that their plan is completely and utterly useless, and the fact that the ship is moments away from tipping over and killing them all in a manner of fiery death, he's still trying to take control of the situation, saying, I have a gun and I'm going to hold you all hostage and you're going to do exactly as I say. And even the main heroes are going, for Christ's sake, we're all going to die. This is not helping. And it's goofy, but there's something kind of charming about the way this guy's doing the most obviously evil thing, even when it's clearly the least helpful thing you can imagine. Like, eventually, the only way they can figure of getting to the craft is by launching this biplane that was introduced earlier in the movie, and they use that to try and transport the young people out. However, because Foster, the character's name is, has a gun, he makes it so that he gets on the plane with Lady Penelope as a hostage. The rest of his crew go, by the way, keep in mind that they're still holding on to the plane at this point because they're preparing it for launch. And they go, Yeah, please be quick about coming back for us. The ship is about to fall at any moment. And Foster just turns around and goes, "What makes you think I'm coming back?" and starts shooting at them even before the bloody plane's launched. It kind of reminds me, there's a line from the British comedy Bleak Expectations when the main villain of that series betrays a minion, and the minion goes, "I can't believe you shot me off this building, though I have a grudging respect for the evil which made you do it."
That sounds like a line I would write for the Neo Secret Duelist.
But yeah, otherwise the movie wraps up pretty well, and it ends on the damn squib of, "Yay, the biplane's now Thunderbird 6. But yeah, complete lie of a title aside, I'd say, even with its goofy elements, it's still an enjoyable movie overall. I mean, granted, you probably have to be a Thunderbirds fan in the first place, since it's not that good of an introduction if you don't know all of this stuff before, but I'd still say, if you are even, like, vaguely familiar with Thunderbirds, it's still an enjoyable ride, and the pacing is a lot better, and the plot makes more sense, so the goofy elements just kind of add to the charm of the whole thing, especially when you consider, yeah, okay, this is the 60s, that was a different standard back then.
At least, if nothing else, this movie sounds entertaining in kind of the most ridiculous way possible, but still.
Yeah, it's not the best movie in the world, but it's still an entertaining one. And so with that, we put the images of murderous rescuers and maniacal laughing puppets behind us, and we move on to our final section, which is
Quickfire Reviews!
This is the section where we review everything else we've read, watched or played, but within the maximum time limit of 60 seconds. Sven, do you want to start?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okie doke then, your time starts now.
Heroes of Might and Magic 3, The Complete Collection. One of my first strategy games. I don't know if it was actually the first. It's still running with Ogre Battle 64 for that one. But I've replayed it recently. It's still fun, although even today, without the boon of my cheat codes that I used in the old days, I will say this. It's so hard! That said, the story's good.
Yeah, I do remember older strategy games being like that.
Painful memories of trying to play Heroes of Might and Magic 3 in the old days without cheat codes whenever I was 7 years old and did not know the meaning of tactics.
Aww. And the days when you didn't have a screwdriver.
Good point.
That's yet another callback to ages ago.
I still remember that, telling that story. I definitely remember the story because it was ridiculous, but...
Oh dear, but yeah, on my end, just to cover what I already mentioned in the review section,
Hulk vs. Wolverine, a animated movie which, well, it's actually pretty silly to call it a movie because it's only about half an hour long. Mildly entertaining and decent animation, and it's kind of nice to see an animated version of the comic book characters where they are allowed to use violence and language, but at the same time, the characters are pretty one note. It kind of assumes you already know these people, and it has the most cliched ending for a versus movie ever. Hulk and Wolverine saying, "Now where are we?" and charging at each other. Plus, Wolverine is can't undo a git, even if he is voiced by Steve Blum.
Exactly my opinion of Amon from Legend of Korra.
Yeah. Oh, and it also features Deadpool, but it's one of the few times I actually enjoy Deadpool. So.
Wow! That just hit me how rare that is.
Yeah, well, mainly because A, he's only in small doses, and B, he's not treated like the greatest thing in the universe. Pretty much everyone else on his team just goes, "Oh, for God's sake, shut up!"
I can respect that.
Oh dear, and...
Murder on the Orient Express, point-and-click adventure game based on the novel by Agatha Christie. Obviously, I'll get more into the story in a VTT episode, but in terms of general gameplay, it is a well-executed adventure game. It's decently paced, has nice graphics, and okay-ish voice acting. The only slight problem is that adventure game logic is at the bounds here. This is the only game where you try and make a footprint cast using cake batter, tongs, and an ice bucket.
What?
Yep, that is an actual solution, and bizarrely enough, that was one of the milder examples I just gave you.
Oh, God! Now I know what Yahtzee meant whenever he said that adventure games are usually powered by moon logic.
And with that, we come to the end of our show, and if you have any opinions on anything we discussed, feel free to share them in the comment section, that's what it's there for. But for now, we must end the show. If you're scared by something else, trick-or-treating, I don't know, how do Halloween episodes usually end off?
I don't know, actually.
Okay, so we'll just end the same way we always do. Until next month, I've been the Jonin Monkey.
And I've been Sven the Crusader. Stay spooky. Also, honk honk, firing main Blarg.
That was Monkey Broadcast, a monthly review and discussion show hosted by the Jonin Monkey and Sven the Crusader. If you feel you've been the subject of slander or that your copyright was misused, send an email to thejoninmonkey@yahoo.co.uk. For more news and media reviews, follow me on Twitter @thejoninmonkey and go to thejoninmonkey.podbean.com for previous podcasts and MP3 downloads. All music used belongs to the original owners. Until next month, have fun, kids!
An airship?